I want to start today with a scenario that I think every single person listening has felt right in their gut. It doesn't matter if you're in IT or finance or if you're just, buying sneakers online. It's late. You are waiting for something critical. Maybe it's a huge payment batch that has to hit the bank before that 5:00 p.m. cutoff. Or you're a logistics manager. You're waiting for a shipping manifest so trucks can actually leave.
The high-stakes waiting game. We've all been there.
We have all been there. Or maybe you're a patient waiting for a lab report to load so your doctor knows what to do. You hit refresh. Nothing.
Still nothing.
You wait 30 seconds, you hit refresh again. And the data, which you just assume kind of magically teleports from point A to point B, is gone. It's in the ether.
Right.
So you make the call. You call IT, you call your vendor, and you ask the simplest question in the world. Where is it?
And that right there is usually where the frustration really starts. Because you rarely get a simple answer, do you?
You get silence. Or you get, we're checking the logs. Or, we think it might be a network issue.
Oh, we're checking the logs. That phrase is the stuff of nightmares for an operations manager. It's basically code for, we have no idea, and it's going to take us about 4 hours to even start looking.
It means you're flying blind. And that sensation, that specific anxiety of not knowing where your critical business data is, that's the core problem we're unpacking today. We've got a massive stack of research here on a platform called IntegratD by a company, MQAttach.
And before you tune out thinking this is just some dry tech review, stick with us, because while the product is technical, the problem it's trying to solve is, well, it's fundamentally human. It's about that friction.
The friction between the people running the business and the machines running the data.
Exactly. So the premise for this deep dive is pretty interesting. How do you turn those invisible failures into visible, tangible answers without having to tear down your entire IT infrastructure and start from scratch? That is the billion-dollar question, isn't it? Because most companies are running on systems they absolutely cannot afford to replace.
So let's start with the mess. Let's deconstruct why, in this day and age, we still lose data. Why is the answer always, we're checking the logs? Why isn't it just a blinking red light on a map, like a rideshare app?
To understand that, you have to stop thinking of data movement as a single hop. It's not a text message from me to you. In an enterprise setting, data runs an obstacle course.
The sources describe it as a relay race, but a relay race in the dark.
That is a pretty good analogy. Let's say you place an order online. That data, it might start in a web app, then it hits an API gateway, then it gets picked up by a file transfer system. Then it probably goes through an integration platform like a Boomi or an IBM ACE to get transformed into a format the warehouse can even understand. And then finally, it has to get sent out to some third-party logistics partner.
So that's, 5 or 6 different handoffs?
At a minimum. And each one of those steps is usually managed by a different piece of software, often owned by different teams.
And the teams don't talk to each other.
The web team doesn't talk to the mainframe team. The mainframe team doesn't talk to the logistics team. So when the order vanishes,
it's stuck in the cracks between them.
Precisely. It's the black box problem. The API team says, well, it left our system just fine. The logistics team says, we never received it. And the data is just sitting in a queue somewhere in the middle, but nobody has a tool that sees the entire journey.
They only see their little piece of it.
Their little slice of the pie.
And this leads to the fallout that the research details. And it's not just IT puts in overtime. The consequences are, frankly, brutal. Customer service delays are the most obvious one.
Right. If a customer calls and says, where is my order? And the agent can't tell them, trust just evaporates. The sources really highlight that, the erosion of trust. You just look incompetent.
But there's a huge internal cost, too, these manual investigations. I was reading through the notes on what this actually looks like, and it just sounds miserable.
This is the hidden cost of doing business. You have highly paid engineers spending, 4 hours digging through raw text logs looking for one timestamp or a hex code just to find out a file name was misspelled.
That seems incredibly inefficient. You're paying very smart people to do essentially digital janitorial work.
It is. And while they're digging, the business side is just waiting. And this brings us to one of the most interesting concepts in these notes. The translation gap.
This really resonated with me, the idea that IT and business are basically speaking 2 different languages.
Completely different. If I'm an IT admin, I'm looking at error 404 or Java null pointer exception. That means something to me technically.
Sure.
But to the VP of supply chain, that is gibberish. They deal in missed shipping deadline or SLA breach.
So you've got one side yelling about deadlines and revenue, and the other side is mumbling about server exceptions and heap space.
And that gap, it just creates friction. It leads to a reactive posture. The notes call it firefighting. You aren't managing your data. You're just running around with a hose, putting out fires after the building is already smoking.
Which brings us to IntegratD by MQAttach. They're pitching themselves as the solution to this specific chaos. The term they use is an observability platform. Now, I want to pause on that word, observability. It's a massive buzzword in tech. How is that different from just monitoring?
That's a great question. It's a subtle but really important distinction. Monitoring tells you if the system is on. Is the green light blinking?
Okay.
Observability tells you what the system is doing and, more importantly, why. It's the difference between seeing that a car's engine light is on versus knowing exactly which piston is misfiring, why it misfired, and what damage it just caused.
Okay, that clarifies it.
Yeah.
So what is MQAttach actually doing here? Are they trying to replace the whole engine?
No, and that's the critical piece. I mean, if they came in and said, throw away your IBM mainframe and buy our server, nobody would listen. The core philosophy of IntegratD is that it's non-intrusive. They know businesses have millions invested in IBM systems, in Boomi, in legacy code. They aren't trying to rip that out.
Which is smart because nobody wants to do a rip and replace project. That's how careers end.
Exactly. Instead, IntegratD acts as this layer that sits on top of, or really it connects into all those different systems. It pulls the metadata from the API, the file transfer, the message queue, and stitches it all together into a single view.
So instead of a black box, we get, what? A glass box.
Ah, that's a good way to put it, a glass box. It's about visibility, but more importantly, it's about who gets that visibility. And the source material really emphasizes what they call the plain language revolution.
This is the part designed for the non-coder, for the business user.
Right. The interface isn't some command line with scrolling text, it's a dashboard. Instead of a log file, it shows a transaction, and it answers the business questions. What moved? When did it move? Where did it go? And if it failed, where exactly did it stop?
So in effect, it allows an operations manager to look at a screen and say, oh, I see. The invoice left our system at 2:00 p.m., but our partner rejected it because the PO number was missing.
Exactly. You don't need to know how to read Java code to understand that. You don't need to open a ticket with IT and wait 3 hours. You just look.
That's the democratization of data the notes talk about. It moves the power from the high priests of IT to the actual people who need the answers.
It sounds a bit dramatic, but it really is liberating. It stops the business from being held hostage by all that technical complexity.
Let's get into the weeds a little bit. We've talked high level, but the sources list 4 specific pillars or modules that this platform covers. The tech stack. I want to run through these because they show just how wide this problem is.
Right. It covers the 4 main food groups of enterprise integration.
Let's start with number 1, IntegratD for Boomi. Now, Boomi is a massive platform for connecting applications. It's like the digital glue for a lot of companies. What does IntegratD add? Doesn't Boomi have its own dashboard?
It does, but Boomi is often just one hop in the chain. Think back to our relay race. Boomi might be the runner in the third leg. IntegratD lets you see the deep operational visibility inside that Boomi process, but it's contextually linked to everything else.
So it breaks down the silos.
Yes. So if a transaction involves Boomi, but also a mainframe file transfer, IntegratD sees both of them in one timeline. It connects the Boomi runner to the mainframe runner.
Got it.
It also allows for much faster troubleshooting. If a process hangs, you see exactly which shape or step in the Boomi flow caused the bottleneck.
Okay, pillar number 2. IntegratD for IBM MQMFT. That is a mouthful.
MFT. It stands for Managed File Transfer.
I always think of file transfer as just, emailing an attachment or dragging something to Dropbox. I'm assuming we're talking about something bigger here.
Oh, much bigger. We are talking about the heavy lifting of the global economy. Massive batch files, payroll for 50,000 employees, settlement data between banks. These are huge files that must arrive intact.
So this isn't about speed so much as it is reliability.
Correct. If a payroll file gets corrupted or just stops halfway, people don't get paid. Chaos. This module tracks those files across the enterprise. It gives you proof of delivery. It's like FedEx tracking for your most critical data. You know exactly when it was signed for.
Got it. Number 3, IntegratD for EDI ITXA. EDI is electronic data interchange. This is the old school standard for B2B, right?
It is old school, but it pretty much runs the world. Walmart, Amazon, global supply chains, they all run on EDI. This module focuses on trading partners.
The external blind spot.
This is usually the hardest part to see. You send an invoice to a supplier. Once it leaves your network, it just enters a black hole. Did they get it? Did their system crash? Did they reject it because of a format error?
And you don't know until they call you to complain.
Usually. And then everyone just points fingers. We sent it. No, we never got it.
Right.
This module brings transparency to that handshake. It eliminates the "it's not us, it's them" argument because you can actually see the acknowledgement coming back from the partner. You have a time-stamped receipt.
That sounds incredible for just managing vendor relationships.
It resolves disputes almost instantly.
And finally, number 4, integrated for IBM App Connect Enterprise, or ACE.
ACE manages message flows. In a complex environment like a bank or a hospital, you have millions of tiny messages flying between apps every second. Update balance, check inventory, admit patient. ACE is the air traffic controller for all that.
And integrated sits in the tower, watching.
It monitors the performance and the failures of those message flows. It helps teams move from being reactive to proactive. If you see a message queue starting to back up, like planes circling the airport, you can fix the problem before the system actually crashes.
Whether it's a process in Boomi, a huge file in MFT, a partner exchange in EDI, or a tiny message in AC, the goal is the same: unify the view.
One pane of glass for all 4 killers. That's the value proposition. You stop logging into 4 different tools to find one answer.
Let's pivot to the so what. We've geeked out on the tech, but I want to apply this to the real world. The sources gave us some specific industry examples that really paint the picture. Let's start with retail.
Retail is the perfect storm for this. The margins are thin and the customers are, let's be honest, impatient.
The lost order scenario we talked about at the top.
Exactly. Think about the holidays. Black Friday, your volume spikes 1,000%. Systems are hammered. If your integration platform hiccups, you might have 5,000 orders stuck in pending between the website and the warehouse.
And without observability.
Without observability, you don't know until customers start tweeting at you 3 days later, "You took my money, where's my stuff?" By then, it's a PR nightmare.
But we integrated.
The operations team sees a red spike on a dashboard immediately. Hey, orders aren't reaching the warehouse, the queue is backing up. They can see exactly why, maybe a database lock, and fix it. They can retrigger those transactions instantly. The customer gets their package on time and never even knew there was a glitch.
That is the definition of proactive.
Mm-hmm.
What about banking and financial services? The vibe there is different. It's less, my package is late, and more, where's my $1 million?
The stakes are higher and the regulatory burden is much, much heavier. In banking, it's all about audit and compliance. You can't just lose a file and say, oops.
No, you have regulators breathing down your neck. You need to prove what happened.
Exactly. Show your work. Integrated provides that, what they call non-repudiation. It tracks the lineage of every single payment instruction. If an auditor comes in 6 months later and asks, what happened to this transaction on January 23rd? You can pull up the full history. It lets the business teams prove they're in control of the data.
Control is the key word. Risk management. Okay, let's talk healthcare. The notes mention this, and this feels the most critical because we're talking about lives.
We are. We're talking about patient records, lab results, insurance claims, critical information.
And the fragmentation in healthcare IT is just notorious. You have the clinic system, the hospital system, the lab system, the insurers. None of them were designed to talk to each other.
And yet they have to. If a patient is transferred to the ER, their data needs to follow them instantly. If that integration fails, if the admit message gets stuck somewhere, the doctor is treating a patient without knowing their history. Maybe they don't see a critical drug allergy.
That is terrifying.
It is. So integrated helps by tracking those critical messages to ensure they arrive. But it also helps on the administrative side claims processing.
Getting paid.
Right. If a claim file doesn't get to the insurer correctly, the hospital doesn't get paid. And that cash flow is vital. Integrated reduces those administrative delays so the healthcare organization can focus on the patient, not on troubleshooting IT glitches.
It really highlights how data problems are just people problems in disguise. Finally, insurance.
It's similar to banking, but very, very heavy on partners. You've got repair shops, medical providers, other insurers. The source notes that Integrated can actually show you which of your partners are causing the most delays.
Oh, that's interesting. So you can see if Bob's Auto Body sends corrupted files every Friday.
You can quantify it. Partner A has a 99% success rate. Partner B fails 20% of the time. You can't fix a relationship if you don't have the data to back it up.
You can't fix what you can't see. That seems to be the mantra. But I want to close on something a bit softer, but maybe just as important. The culture shift inside a company.
This is often the most underrated benefit of tools like these.
The source material talks about creating a shared operational view.
Think about the typical meeting when something goes wrong. The business guy is angry because he's losing money. The IT guy is defensive because he feels attacked. The vendor is blaming the network.
The classic blame game.
It's toxic. But when you put a tool like IntegratD in the middle, everyone is looking at the same screen. The business guy sees the same error the IT guy sees, just in plain language. It changes the whole conversation from whose fault is this to, okay, how do we fix this?
Fosters collaboration.
And self-sufficiency. I really can't overstate the relief for a business manager to not have to beg for information. If they can see the status of their own department's data, they feel empowered. They can manage their own risks.
And that builds trust.
Trust between departments and trust with customers. If you can tell a customer, I see exactly where the issue is, it's stuck at the gateway and we're pushing it through now, that sounds competent. It sounds like you know what you're doing.
Versus, I'll put in a ticket.
Exactly. I'll put in a ticket is the phrase that kills customer confidence. It basically says, I am powerless to help you. IntegratD gives that power back.
So let's wrap this up. We started with that sinking feeling of the lost data. We looked at the mess of the black box, the APIs, the files, all the confusion, and we've walked through how MQAttach's integrated platform tries to turn the lights on.
It's about moving from mystery to mastery. The source material ends with a really strong statement. Data movement should never be a mystery, and businesses should never have to guess.
No more guessing. That is a strong promise.
And remember the key differentiator we discussed. It's an enabler, not a replacement. You keep your existing engines, you just finally get a dashboard that actually works.
So here's our final thought for you to chew on today. We've talked a lot about the technology, but I want you to just look at your own workday and think about the stress you feel when things go wrong. The waiting,
the uncertainty.
How much of your daily stress and your team's inefficiency is just caused by the fact that the things you rely on are invisible? And more importantly, what would your workday look like? How much more could you actually get done if you could simply reach out and turn on the lights?
It's a compelling question. When you remove the mystery, you make room for the actual work.
And on that note, we will leave you to look for the ghosts in your own data machines. Thanks for listening to this deep dive.
Until next time.
See you next time.